Of the presentation casted, please. Thank you. And if you can pull, thank you. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this Wednesday on September 3rd, 2025. We're going to introduce to you two homeless assistance grant opportunities for you as members or attendees. If I can just get a show of hands, how many uh, organizations or individuals in this room are actually a COC member? Raise your hand. Okay. And we can check on that for you today. We can check on that today. Okay. We'll check on it today. So just make sure that you hang around so we can help you get situated. There's two homeless assistance grant opportunities as a part of this competition. This is the request for proposals that went out, and that is the emergency solutions grant and the challenge grant. How many people in the room have had experience with these grants before? And how many of you are new to these grants? Okay. All right. So we got some new and some rookies and some vets, right? And Dan and Edward, if I can just have you paying attention in the background to like any raised hands, questions. When we get to the end of a certain section, I might just pause and say like, "Hey, are there any questions?" So that we can just make sure that we don't lose thoughts. um, and we do have a question and answer section at the very end. Um, for those of you who may or may not be familiar with me, I'm Martika Baker. I'm the uh, compliance director here for Opening Doors. So I do a lot of the grants here for Opening Doors and getting this competition out. I would just like to also take some time to thank our COC Leadership Council. They got together and came up with a strategic plan that helped us move this RFP forward because they helped to create a strategic plan and the priorities from the different federal entities and also from the data of what's happening in our community and also best practices that they know as subject matter experts in the field that they're in. And so we just thank them so much. And some of them are on this call. So thank you for being a part of this and getting this process off the ground for the community. Can I please get some assistance with moving the presentation forward? Thank you. So the goals of the RFP are going to be to expand our community's capacity to address homelessness because these are the homeless assistance grants. We're supporting housing focused, person centered, and outcome oriented projects. You've probably have heard this as the big best practices and approaches: housing first, um, equal access, fair housing, things of that nature. You're going to hear us continuing to say more so now about us needing to be housing focused, person centered, and outcome oriented and trauma informed. Okay. So we understand what's happening at the national level, right? If everyone's been paying attention to what's happening. So instead, we're going to be looking at, well, what should our best practices and approaches still be, even though there's a lot of change that's happening at the national level? We are going to be aligning the projects with the COC strategic plan and also HUD and DCF priorities because the COC, they are following what's coming down from the federal government and from the state government, but they're also looking at our community's data to really understand what's the need for the project types and services that we need to get out to the community. What types of programs are going to be a good fit to help us to move the needle to reduce homelessness in our community. So that is what they built their strategic plan from. And then we're going to encourage evidence-based and innovative practices. There is a there's a, both of these funding opportunities have to look at data, and then they also have to have new ways for us to actually move people out of homelessness because maybe what we've been doing isn't working. Maybe we have to use what is going well right? Stop doing what's not working well and bring in more dreamer like approaches to us developing programs that are going to help us move the needle further down, right? So, with the Challenge Grant is a grant that is funded by Florida State Appropriations. It comes through the Department of Children and Families. It passes through DCF, and then it comes down to Opening Doors as the recipient for our community. Then what happens is Opening Doors is charged with hosting this local competition, and the community's job is to award certain subrecipients in the community these funds to carry out the program and meet performance outcomes. Now, DCF tells us what those performance outcomes are. Performance outcomes being deliverables, right? So for the entire grant across housing need, program need, and service need, we have to touch 206 people in our community. Okay. That seems like a low number. It's always well above that, what we do in our community. What will happen is as subcontracts are awarded, subrecipients will get a certain deliverable of this 206. So it won't be like your whole organization has to do 206 alone. You're going to be a unified group working on this grant together. With the housing need is looking at housing projects, right? So are you going to be doing something like bridge housing, interim housing, rapid rehousing, prevention assistance? There's actually a guide. If you look at the website, and we're going to visit there today, it actually breaks down and tells you what's an eligible activity or project type within these budget line items. Okay. So you're going to need to pay very close attention to that area whenever you're writing your application. Program need are all like, it's like HMIS. There's some special populations housing development. And then service need are usually like those direct client services. So if you're doing transportation, IDs, birth certificates, things of that nature. Should you try to tap into all these budget line items? Yeah. It makes your project worth the while and the heavy lift. So explore and see what type of program you can develop that's going to be innovative and help the community. Any questions so far? That was a lot. So I have a pause real quick. Not hearing any, I'm going to move forward. The Emergency Solutions Grant is a federal grant. It is a grant that is through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And the grant passes from HUD to DCF to Opening Doors. And then Opening Doors has to subcontract it out to agencies to perform the grant and complete the performance outcomes. Now, the performance outcomes for this are, I believe it's 62. I can't see behind the date. I'm so sorry. I did not notice that was there. But it is broken up into 6 budget line items, as you can see here. And what's being awarded out are street outreach through rapid rehousing. So street outreach, emergency shelter, HP, and rapid rehousing. HMIS subrecipients under this grant will get awarded 1.5% of what they are awarded for their sub-agreement. And the same thing with admin, it'd be 1.5% of the sub-award agreement that you're awarded, the amount. Yes, sir. Okay, yes, sir. So SO means street outreach. ES means emergency shelter. HP means homeless prevention. RRH means rapid rehousing. And HMIS is homeless management information system. And admin is just administrative costs. It is a shorthand. And I can repeat that again: street outreach, emergency shelter, homeless prevention, rapid rehousing, and homeless management information system. Yes, ma'am. It's 62. Again, 62 for the whole grant. So again, it's going to be a one band, one sound approach, right? Yes. So whatever component you're awarded within, you'll have a deliverable within that component, and you'll make up the whole team. Is the 62. So, what is an eligible applicant for this grant? It has to be a private nonprofit organization that has a 501c3 status in good standing condition. If you are applying for, well, you have to also have a SunBiz registration, and you have to have an FDAX registration for getting contributions in the state of Florida. FDAX is the Florida Department of Agricultural Consumer Services. Um, and then if you are applying for ESG or the Emergency Solutions Federal Grant, you have to have a UEI that is registered through, or a unique entity identifier that is registered through sam.gov, which is a federal site. Yes, sir. Yes. Hmm. That's correct. So the eligible activities of Emergency Solutions Grant, as you can see here, and this is high level again because we have a tool, a homeless assistance guidance tool that really goes into the meat of this. The eligible activities that you see here: street outreach and emergency shelter. We could not put more than 60% of what we got awarded as a community towards those two components. So it's very low this year. And as you've seen, if you've historically been a part of the Emergency Solutions Grant or TANF even, or even Challenge Grant within our community, it's a lot lower than what it has been historically. Um, we were at two, we went up to 283, then 277, and now we're down to like 188, a little under 189. And that's because DCF had a cut, they cut all the COCs by 10%, all COCs, not just ours. That was what they decided to do. They also did it to the challenge grant. They did it to all the grants that came through the unified contract. Uh, Homeless prevention can be used on things such as like rental assistance and stabilization services, rental assistance, including like security deposit and rental application. It can do some short term rental assistance, which means you could do like 1 up to 3 months of rental assistance for a family or individual. And then rapid rehousing actually is very similar to that, except for rapid rehousing allows for relocation and then just rehousing people who have already slipped into homelessness. And there's like a whole program rule. So if you really want to go explore it on your own, yeah, I believe it's 24 CFR 57. Is it 6 or 8? I think it's 6. It's 24 CFR 576, and that is actually the federal requirements of this program, where you can actually go and read the meat of it on your own. And it ranges from 576.101 through 107. Sorry. And then again, HMIS participation is limited for 1.5% of your subrecipient award total. So I'm honing in on this is because you need to pay attention to this as you're doing something. So it's very important for your budget requests, right? So if I'm telling you this, I've told you this like 2 or 3 times already. So that means hone in on it and make sure that as you're doing your budget requests that you're not going over the limits that are there. Same thing with your admin limit is 1.5% of your subrecipient award total. So just be very mindful as you're doing your application. The challenge grant, again, is broken down into housing need, program need, and service need. So some of the things it could do are housing solutions, supportive services that link to housing, system coordination, innovation, and prevention and diversion activities. And the key point to take away from the challenge grant is whatever you are developing needs to be in alignment with the COC strategic plan. That is a big part of how even DCF, when they're looking at our subcontractor list, hey, are we doing things that are in compliance with our strategic plan? And so this program specifically is very important to it. Yes, sir. That's fine. That's okay. We're going to visit there today. I'm going to show you exactly where you find it. You're welcome. So, match. These grants all have a match requirement for both challenge and the emergency solutions grant. With the challenge grant, it is a 100% match. With ESG is a 25% match. And you're probably like, well, what in the world is match if you're new to the game? I know some of you aren't, and you've been doing this a lot in your community, in other communities or here. But I want to go a little bit over it. So the reason why funders do match is because they need to show you are showing your commitment to them. You're saying, okay, this is my dog in the hunt. You are also doing it because it lets the community know that you are committed to doing these projects. And it also um, gets the community involved. So you're getting buy in from the funders within your community to help with supporting the program that you're putting out. So the types of match contributions that you can have are cash match, which is real money that you're putting in, or donate, not donations, but real money that someone is giving you to stand up that project can also be used. Yes, that's you're right. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So before I send this slideshow up, it's going to be changed. Thank you, Miss Melinda. The correct is what Miss Melinda is saying. 100 challenge, 25% ESG. That is correct. That is correct. The slide is wrong. The RFP is correct. 100% ESG, challenge is 25% because challenge follows COC, which is 25%. So ESG is 100% asking price. That's what they ask for. So other types of match include in-kind contributions, which are donations or non-cash match that you can put towards your grant. It could be volunteer hours, equipment that's donated. It can be office space or pro bono work, like through a legal assistance team. So just think about the types of non-cash match that are being contributed. But the main thing that you need to hone in for is whatever you're using for your in-kind contribution, it has to be an eligible activity within the grant and the component that you are applying for or the budget line item that you're applying for. And you can't double count whatever you're using for match. So if you're using that item for match or whatever that in-kind contribution or that cash is, whatever it is, you can't use it for ESG and challenge if you're applying for both grants. And you shouldn't be using if you're applying for something like CDBG and you have to have a match requirement. Can't use whatever you use for CDBG's match for ESG's match. Okay? Yes. Hmm. Correct. Correct. Right. You can't use if you have Eve and Steve, you can't use both, for the month of August. You can't use both of their hours within both grants. You have to choose like what hours you're going to cover. Performance expectations. So that we're going to be looking at you telling us, and this is you showing us that you read the strategic plan of the Leadership Council. Are you writing a program that is going to help them to accomplish these goals. And these are community wide goals that are also HMIS goals for the community, right? So even as you're operating your private grants or other federal and state grants that you have right now, if you're participating in HMIS or participating in the community, then you are helping the COC with its system performance metrics, right? So all of these performance expectations are actually a part of HMIS and looking at how our community is doing to reduce our homeless numbers. Who is experiencing homelessness? So with ESG, the outcomes are really heavy system performance metrics. Are you reducing the length of time homeless? Are we increasing exits to permanent housing and keeping people housed? Um, a long period of time. So, are we also preventing recidivism or returns to homelessness back into the homeless response system? And the goal is to try to keep I can't remember what the percentage is off the top of my head, but we want to keep as many people that we house out of homelessness and without them coming back into homelessness within 12 months of us actually serving them. So, that's the goal for our community. With the challenge grant, it's to support those COC priorities, to strengthen our partnerships, right? Because it's all about innovation and how are we working together and collaborating. And then again, demonstrating measurable housing stability and self sufficiency. And although that's the way that they say it in our contract, all they mean with that is look at your system performance metrics, right? So both of these grants actually do tie together heavily to showing data performance of community impact. Then there are some compliance requirements we have to worry about. So some best practices and ethical principles that you need to pay attention to addressing in your application. Some of those best practices, again, being housing focused, person centered, trauma informed, and outcome oriented. All right. Again, this is all that federal language that you've historically have heard. So just keep in mind when you're doing your research, this is what you're looking for. That's what you're addressing. In your case management approach, your intake approach, your navigation approach, things of that nature that you're going to address in your application. Then you need to make sure you take a look at your policies. If you don't have these, you need to get these set up as quickly as possible. Both grants have a conflict of interest policy built within it. There's federal requirements for conflict of interest for ESG, and then the state has requirements regarding conflict of interest. And you need to pay attention to the difference and you have to address both in your policy. Organizational conflicts of interest and individual conflicts of interest, especially for staff that are working on day-to-day operations and data and service delivery, right? So make sure that if you don't have conflict of interest policies, you start working with your board, start doing personal research. It's not to say, hey, you people in this room right now who you may not be executive directors, right? You may be just a program staff member. And if you are and you are working on the grant or with your board and also with your ED, take this back and go to them and say, hey, I didn't see that we have this. Do we have this? Can we build a conflict of interest policy? Maybe you are the person that's going to be tasked with writing it. If you are, then do your research, build it, talk to your ED, get it forward to your board, maybe call an emergency board meeting, whatever you need to do, have this policy. This is, again, this whole I got you, it's to get you stood up to be in compliance, right? Now, once this goes live, I can't help in certain ways. Okay. I can answer questions that are in the RFP guide. That's what I can do. But I can't do the work for you and I can't like point you in direction. So once this is done and I answer questions from whenever we do our post exit questionnaire, we have that open question period. I can answer questions through that period. And then once that happens and the answer question period ends, I am in blackout mode. I can't help you anymore. Because it can be perceived as a conflict of interest for me as someone that's in the know and I put together the RFP and things of that nature. It would be unfair for me to give guidance to any applicant. Is that how that would be perceived? If I were to do that, it would be perceived. Yeah, right. What we can help with through this process, and I'm going to get a little bit into that, is through this process, you can expect for us to give this informational training to point you to in the direction of the tools to use to complete the RFP and refer back to the RFP. I will always say, hey, you need to go back to the RFP and read through it carefully and answer to the best of your possibilities. But other than that, I won't be able to um, help out in any way. Uh, and we've put as many tools as we could out to help. Yes, ma'am. Sure. Okay. So within the emergency solutions grant, HUD basically says that you cannot make it difficult for families to remain together, especially if there are children of opposing um, sets assigned at birth, right? So if you have a male child who you normally would not allow in your shelter, if you're a family shelter, especially, if you are a family shelter and you say, "Hey, we're serving families," you can't say, "Hey, well, this young man is 13 and we're going to have him go over to this shelter here because our limit is allowing only 12-year-olds, 12 and under." For males, right? So this is just saying that's prohibited for that to happen, where you have to separate the family. Um, and this is based on any of those federally protected classes, especially related to age and sex assigned at birth. That is what HUD is saying. Don't separate the family. Any other questions?
When they ask a question, if you could repeat their question before answering it.
Oh, because they can't hear. Okay, I'm so sorry, Miss Susan. Thank you for bringing that up, Dan. So, couple questions that we had gone over historically that I answered is what technical support could opening doors give, which is I had limited to after the question period, I can't answer any questions. um, and there was a question asked about what did the family separation prohibition mean? That means that we can't separate family members based on age or sex assigned at birth per the HUD program rule, especially when we're offering family shelter. And then also information about the acronyms or the abbreviations used with the emergency solutions grant with the budget line items. So those were the three questions that I can remember. And then also clarification about the percentages of challenge and ESG's match. Oh, thank you so much, Dan, for keeping up with me. Greatly appreciate that. Compliance requirements operationally, what you need to worry about is okay, you are probably going to be going through this Google form and it's going to ask you questions. And it's going to ask you yes or no. Are you putting match information in? You're going to type it in, but it's also going to be looking for an upload. It is asking you for an upload of a commitment letter or a match letter. A template for that has been created for you to use. I have had organizations put it on their own letterhead, and that's fine. That has been historically acceptable. It's okay. You also have to pay attention to if you're receiving, I know a lot of us in this room receive pass-through funding from other state and federal entities. If you are a grant recipient of federal dollars and you hit the 750K plus threshold, you know you have to have a federal single audit, right? If you hit, yes, everyone actually is probably going through ours because everyone's like ending grant cycle in July. That means they're in September. So, if you have a 500K threshold for state grants, then you know you have to have a state single audit. Some of us are going through two, right? We have to have state and federal at the same time. So, if you are, just know that you're going to need to submit your latest and greatest single audit before the subaward agreement, the latest and greatest. If you get a new one, because I know we're all going to get one probably towards September, October, before we go into your sub agreement, make sure you turn your single audit in. Okay. Because that is going to be a question that DCF comes back to us to ask. Did your subcontractors have to have a single audit, a part of their subcontract tool? Environmental review. Now, this has been something we've not talked about a lot in our community, except for when you're doing county and city grants. But if we are doing any type of rehab or renovation project, you have to have an environmental review. Now, Miss Liz is on the call. I thought I saw her today. Now, Miss Liz, I could tell you I am not a subject matter expert in environmental review. But could you talk about it a little bit for us if you're on the call?
Yeah, sure. There's a couple different types of environmental reviews. If you're applying for supportive services, it's a much easier environmental review process. It's really just kind of looking at where your location is, if there's any kind of historical environmental concerns there. And it might be, looking through your building to make sure there's not mold or asbestos. So those really are the common types. If you're building something, that's an entirely different scenario. But most of the time for supportive services, if it's for sheltering or something where you're just meeting and you're counseling, those environmental reviews are a little bit easier, but it is a process. So bear with whoever has to do the environmental review.
Okay, Miss Liz, I believe you have a question in the room, and if you just give me a moment to get the mic over to you.
Hi, Liz. I'm Chad with Dignity and Discipleship, and my question is, who does the environmental review? Is there an agency? Is there a particular inspector? How do we comply?
That's a great question. I know for the county, we actually have procured our own environmental review. I guess that's a better question for Serene and Martika. When somebody applies for this funding, are they required to go out and obtain somebody who will do an environmental review, or is that something that Opening Doors would help with, or the COC?
So, our training of this from DCF is that we are to work with our county or our city for wherever the structure is going to be to have them conduct the environmental review.
That's something that whoever, if it's in the city limits, obviously it'd be the city. If it's in the county, it will obviously be in the county. So that's something we certainly would be willing to evaluate and work with you guys on. But typically, if it's funding through the county, I can say for sure that we are the ones that actually do the environmental review. And it sounds like they're looking for a partnership from city or county to do it if you guys are all selected for the process.
And one more question in the room.
There's also a question online.
Hey Liz, this is Jamie with Lutheran Services. So it's really, we are not writing for anything that requires that now. Is that something we can only request when we're writing a grant for, or is that something we can request now in the hopes that future we may be writing it and then we would have it on file and be able to use it for a grant that we would be using in the future?
So really the environmental review is going to be in order for it to be determined if an environmental review is even needed. I would say that the folks that which would be our COC, would evaluate that project, go to the grant requirements and determine if the environmental review is needed or required. I would say that I would not recommend asking for an environmental review if you don't have to. And then it's also one of those things where you can't really have it done and ready, because if you were, let's just say hypothetically, to get an environmental review done today, but then you applied for a grant next year that required one, there's been a whole year there. So we don't know what happened during that year. They would have to do another environmental review. So it's really something that you're going to want to do as you apply for grants that are going to require the environmental review.
And the question online, Dan?
This is a question from Brightbridge Ministries, Kay McClellan. The submission checklist and page 9 asks for the conflict of interest policy signed and dated. Is that supposed to be signed and dated by our board or by our staff?
It needs to be signed and dated by your board.
Martika, it's Tracy with Favor House.
Just a moment, Miss Tracy. We have a question in the room that had already gone up.
Okay.
It's by your fiscal year. Yeah, it runs from your fiscal year. So the question, yeah, thank you. So the question was from Pastor Ashley, Reverend Ashley Mosley Brown. Uh, uh, she asked, what were the requirements when it came to the threshold for the single audit requirements? She asked, was it what by period? And the question was answered by Paige from 90 Works, and that was that it is by your fiscal year, whatever the fiscal year is for the organization, which is right on spot. All right, next question, please.
Is that me?
Yes.
Okay. So going back to the conflict of interest policy signed and dated, you said it needed to be signed and dated by the board. Favor House has a conflict of interest policy that each and every board member has to sign every year. Do you want all of that, or do you want me to ask like my board president to do one on behalf of the board?
If you have something where all of your board members sign, I would, yes, compile something where everyone abides by, and then just have your board president sign off on it.
Okay.
It could be the exact template that you have for everyone to sign. That'll be fine, and just have them sign and say, hey, this is the policy that we all abide by. That way it's not a big lift.
Okay. So you're really just interested in seeing the policy itself and not necessarily the signing part.
The signature is important because that lets us know that someone that has a signatory authority has reviewed it and it's in compliance for your fiscal year.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
It doesn't. So there's a question about if the conflict of interest policy of the organization is built into the bylaws, is that sufficient? I would read through that and make sure that it not only covers your organizational, but also your individual staff members. And if that is fine, then flip that page out and have your board sign it, your board president sign it. That way it's not a heavy lift. This is basically about, hey, governance, right? Are we meeting our governance requirements as an organization that's working with public assistance dollars, right? So as long as you can cover yourself in that way. Okay, next slide, since my clicker's not working. Oh, never mind, it's back on. It's on. Thank you. Proposal requirements. Now, I did not go over every single line item in this RFP in this presentation, but I wanted to hone in on those things that you needed to pay quick attention to. You are going to have to tell our project review and ranking committee or selection committee, you might hear us use so many different terms. Um, you're going to need to tell them your organization's experience and capacity in a narrative. Do the very best that you can, talking about, what is your history with working with homeless programs, people who are experiencing homelessness, people who are at imminent risk of homelessness or who are at risk of homelessness. And then you're going to talk about your capacity. That means your administrative weight, right? Do you have the staff, the board, the governance to do this work, to keep yourselves compliant with the administrative lift of this grant? So you're going to have someone that's looking at the operations. So you're going to have a board. You're going to have someone that's handling the day-to-day operations. So do you have the staff, the program managers and the case managers to do whatever you're proposing? Then you're going to have a project narrative. In this project narrative, you're going to be having a description of your scope and your target population that you're going to serve. And so you're going to tell us about the innovation of your project. So how is it going to integrate with coordinated entry? You're probably curious what coordinated entry is. We got you. We have something on the website to help you out with that so that you can know like what is coordinated entry and how do you interface with it. Performance outcomes in the evaluation plan. So you're going to be looking at how will you use the homeless management information system or the HMIS. If you're DV, how will you provide a reportable outcomes using the comparable database? Because not everyone would know this, but if you're a DV provider, you're probably very familiar with using an HMIS comparable database. So if you're a DV provider or a victim service provider, how are you gonna meet the compliancy requirements regarding HMIS reporting? Proposal requirements continue, and if you're not sure how you can do that, we're in an open Q&A period where you can ask questions for like a few days. So make sure that you reach out. Proposal requirements continued. Now this is where I want us to move from just match letters to having like high level partnerships and collaboration. This is where coordinated entry really is the meat of communities. So, who are we partnering with when it comes to coordinated entry and services for the people that we're serving? So, even though you may not look at opening doors as a community partner and you hear that coordinated entry is a big piece of this, and you're not involved, maybe you need to be taking a look and saying, hey, I might need to partner with them. I might need to partner with the entities that are already community or already coordinated entry partners, because this is where HUD and also DCF are looking is when we're putting forward grants to them at the highest level, like us to them. Hey, do we have these MOUs in place within the community where we're submitting our big community-wide application, right? So I want everyone in this room, if you're applying for these grants, to start looking at that. What MOUs are we missing that we need to put in place? Budget template and narrative. There is a budget template for both the challenge and the ESG grant that you need to use. There's a narrative section within that template as well. So you do have to use that budget tool and put your narrative on there. What I would recommend to you is, one, use the budget template and justify every item requested. If you're requesting staff dollars, I need you to tell us pay rate or hourly rate, hours of commitment, what percentage, fringe benefits, spell it out. Justify and reason why you need this grant and why I'm, yes, ma'am. Hmm. Hmm. So, because I'm not a subject matter expert on this, I do have something, a tool that I could show to you or send to everyone to put on their website to explain that breakdown. So that way everyone's on the same page because I don't want to misquote where we even have it.
Repeat the question, please, for the people online.
Okay. So R- Reverend Ashley asked about fringe benefits and how it's differentiated from salary and compensation. So salary is usually like the pay rate that you give your staff member, the hourly rate, and your fringe is like your workers compensation and yeah, your health insurance benefits, your FICA, all that. I just didn't want to like go into the meat of it, but and I also don't want to misquote, whenever you give incentives where it falls either. So I'm trying to be very careful with where I say it and where it falls. Um, Required attachments list. There is a required attachments list that you actually need to complete and check off and basically put in the order of your application when you submit it up because that is going to keep us in line for when we pull it down for the project review and ranking committee. And it's also a way for you to check off and say, hey, I've met all of the requirements. I got everything that I needed to turn in. So make sure that you pay attention to that required attachments list, and it's also on the website. Submission information. It is submitted in a Google form, including your uploads. We have like a terabyte. So plenty of space for you to get your information uploaded into the application. If you run into any technical issues, there's somebody for you to contact to get assistance. Hmm. Yes, sir. Hold on. Who was first? I can't remember. Okay. Okay. He said the floor is yours, Miss Tracy.
So I have two questions. The first question is, can you give us an electronic version so that we can navigate through the application and then put it into Google form? And the second one is, do we have to apply for them separately, like a separate Google form for ESG and a separate one for challenge, or is it all collective?
Yes, we will have a electronic version or digitized version for you to be able to enter your information in on for practice before you put it into the main application. And then two, your question was, do you have to apply separately in two separate Google Form applications? No, they're all within the same application. So please be careful. Read very carefully of where you are submitting. Okay. Make sure if you're submitting for ESG, you're in the ESG section. If you're submitting it for challenge, you're in the challenge section. It is all in one application. And the submission deadline is Tuesday, September 30th, 2025 at 5 p.m. Because I'm going to start my work as soon as the submission goes through. Because I'm trying to be fast because I got to get it to the selection committee. Yes. I had a question.
Question's very similar to hers. So on those Google Forms, there are multiple pages and you got to fill it out to go on to the next page. So I don't know what's on the subsequent pages. Could I get like a one pager? Could we get it so we could see everything? There's a question, for instance, that says, do you have financial oversight? I got to find out what that is. And then I've got to make sure that I've got it prior to September 30th. And I just wonder how many more surprises there are on page 3 and page 4. So I'd like to see the whole thing up front so that we can get to work on meeting those requirements.
So when we make the electronic version of the form, it will come out in multiple pages, but at least you'll be able to physically see it. And that way, maybe link together what questions go where and go together. What we could try to do, and then have to talk to my IT team. I know you're asking for reference point. Yeah, so we can do that. That'd be perfectly fine.
It will be in PDF form.
Mhm. So there could be like a printable version and a fillable version. So that's what we've done historically. It's both. No problem. And then there was something about what you said that made me want to draw attention to. Mm-mm. It was specific to the technical assistance for the application. Oh, your responses are saved, right? So if you go in there, you yeah, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I honed in on that your responses are saved. So if you move toggle through and have to come back, you don't lose your information. No, you don't. So the review and selection process. So there's a 3-step process with all this. The first process starts with my team here. It starts usually with me. I'm going to actually go through and complete a compliance checklist. So you're doing a lot of the heavy lift for me. Thank you if you do the required attachments checklist, because all I'm going to do is go back through and make sure that the things that you said yes to, I can actually physically see in the application, and have it on an Excel spreadsheet to just say, hey, did it pass or fail the minimal threshold requirements for the project review and ranking committee? The project review and ranking committee are going to get a list of those applications that are going to move forward. And those that aren't going to move forward from the compliance checklist standpoint, you're going to get notified ahead of time. Which is why it's important that don't wait until the last minute to submit your application. I can't tell you, as someone that's gone through NOFOs before, or project application for NOFO, which is federal grant side, don't wait till the last minute because systems can lock up and you are up the creek without a paddle if your application comes in at 501. Okay. They are not forgiving. And then we can all tell you, if you're in the federal side of things, that they're just not forgiving. And also, if you get it in advance, um, if you didn't notice, I don't believe I put and I did this on purpose because I was like, this is very short notice. I didn't put a clause that says, hey, if you're missing something, you can't get it in before the deadline, right? So if you get it in on time, I'm already going to be starting to do pre-qualification check work. If you're missing a supporting document, I'm going to reach out to you. So you do have a window of time in the middle of all this to try to cure a deficiency. I'm not going to tell you specifically what you need to do, but I will highlight, hey, I'm missing this. I'm missing your IRS determination. And that's open to everyone. That's why I didn't close it off. So I'm telling you now, forewarning, get your application in advance. If you try to submit it after 5 o'clock forward, unfortunately, you did not get that benefit that everyone else had because it's open to you, right? It's open to you because everyone's hearing it. So it's not any type of bias or favoritism or anything else of that nature. So once it gets to the project review and ranking committee process, they're going to do everything that's based on the scoring rubric of this RFP. They're going to be looking at everything about your application. They're going to be looking at, hey, is this application going to be helping us to meet our capacity requirements? Is it innovative? Are the outcomes within the project measurable? That's not all that they're looking at, but it is based on the RFP, everything that they're going to be going through. The project and review committee's recommendations or the results of the competition that they come up with are going to be forwarded to the COC Leadership Council. The COC Leadership Council is in charge then with reviewing the recommendations, and then they vote to accept, right? except what the project review and ranking committee puts forward. If and when the COC Leadership Council votes and approves the listing, the priority listing for the applications to say, hey, these are the awardees, then it comes back to the lead agency for submission for the voted list to DCF. And those are the ones that are going to go be a part of the subcontractor listing with DCF and actually get issued a contract with us. Okay. So the decision on who gets funded falls between the conversations of the project review and ranking committee and the leadership council. Opening Doors has no say. We just do the support work. Mhm. Project review and ranking committee. The agencies, so with the project review and ranking committee, they are not made up of applicants of either the COC grants nor of the DCF grants. They are a complete unbiased a group of people in the COC. They could be made up of COC members or COC leadership council members, but they cannot be a grant recipient of any of the HUD COC or any of the DCF state unified grants. Mm. It could be a conflict of interest. It could be perceived as one. Mm. Mm. That could be a perception of a conflict of interest. I could see that. And that's just like me saying, hey, what if I would think how another person would think? That could be a perception, yeah. Okay. They should be here part of the call. Today's call is fine. Okay, so this timeline is pulled directly from the website as well. Sorry for the calendar dates and the slide number getting in the way, but what I want you to hone in on is September 30th, 2025 at 5 p.m. is the submission deadline. You have a little over 4 weeks left to do this application. Probably not quite 4 weeks. I don't remember right now. Remember, I am open for questions until you can submit questions until September 8th to grants@openingdoorsnwfl.org. And I have that on a later slide for the show as well. And then I will have to respond no later than September the 11th back to you. The leadership well, let's go back. The project review and ranking committee, they will start their work from October 2nd through the 6th. They will have to have a meeting on the 6th of October to finalize the results list to go to the actual leadership council. And then the leadership council will have an emergency vote on October the 7th. What will happen is on that same day, right after the leadership council's vote, because there's templates for all this, I can pretty much move a lot really fast with getting like notifications out and things of that nature. So once they come up with their vote, the applicant notifications will be sent, and then there will be an open appeals period. Now, there is an explanation about the appeals period and how it works. For things that a project applicant should have had in their application, if you want to write an appeal about that, because let's say you didn't feel like you expressed it in, a clear way or whatever else, we can't allow you to remedy anything. It's, we got to be fair to everyone that's in the room that's being an applicant. The appeals period is basically a time for you to say, hey, I think this is how we can improve this process moving forward. Right. And I know one big one that I can even say off the top of my head, and I'm hoping this improves the process moving forward, is having this leadership council The strategic plan goes off a lot earlier in advance so that we can get the RFP out faster. And then final awards will go out on October the 13th. Well, that's when the public announcement will go out. And then the actual contracts will be issued on that date. So during the appeals period is when I'll be doing a lot of work and having some communication with you. And then we'll talk about your application, because what's going to happen in your contract, what's awarded to you, is based on what you told us you were going to do in your application. So if the Project Review and Record Committee and COC Leadership Council award you, you don't get to add stuff after the fact to your application. So that has to happen during like technical adjustment season and things of that nature. So, but whatever you put in your application is what is. On the website, on the Leadership Council website, there is a download section within this page here. If you go down to downloads, so if you go back to this presentation here, and you just go down to downloads, all of the documents that you need are there, explaining what the match letter is, the template, the board of directors roster form, so all the information that you need, even the written standards that explain about coordinated entry in the last voted written standards of the COC, and then the homeless assistance program guidance, which is a great tool that I've been talking about that spell out all of the eligible activities underneath the grant. Okay. Or the grants, because it goes over both ESG and challenge. Challenge being the first part, and then going into ESG. Okay. Any questions online, especially since I don't see hands up in the room? Miss Melinda's first, because I see her. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You have until June 30th, 2026. That's the spin down deadline. It will start on October 13th. As soon as your contract is executed by both the ED and in the ED of your organization, that's when you can start spending. It is cost reimbursement. I'm so sorry. So it is fixed costs. It is 1/12 the grant. That's how they give it to us. And so that is how, well, except for, I believe, Challenge Grant is cost reimbursement. One of them is cost reimbursement and one of them is fixed cost, where they do it at 1/12. So how you're going to get compensated should be based on 1/12 of the grant. Or well, because it starts in October, so 1/10. Yeah, 1/10. There we go. And let me call Joan in here. Let me see if she's available, because she's your lady regarding like spin down period.
Tick, I'm calling her for you.
Thank you. It was in the past, but I know like this last year they moved us to 1/12 under ESG. It's Challenge is the one that's getting me mixed up, because they've mixed it up so much with the different forms of challenge that they've given us. Some like Challenge Plus was one thing and Challenge Base Plus was another. Yeah, it's been a long time. How about this? It looks like our accountant may be out of the office on an errand. So what we can do is we will have this as being our first question to answer. Um, to get an answer from our contract manager from, because we're going to need that roll-up report is really what's going to tell us that spend down schedule. And so we need to get a hold of the contract manager for the roll-up report. Oh, well, we're just going to put a pin in the question and save it for a parking lot and just do it as a Q&A later on. It's okay. Contact information. So for post-session questions, just start asking your questions so that we can get your questions starting being asked. And so that I can get a response back out to everyone by the 11th of September. You put your questions in at grants@openingdoors.nwfl.org, and our team will be able to respond to you. For any technical assistance, email me. If it's like a true computerized technical assistance, then the HMIS department will be segued in to reach out to you to give some assistance. This is my direct number to contact me. Again, it's only for technical assistance, not to ask me, well, what should I do? I won't be able to answer that. No, please don't. Because my staff are very sensitive. They really are. Hmm. Yes. Hmm. And the recordings, all this will go out cleaned up for you so that you have it for your records and be able to refer back to. But the first question I'm going to ask, will answer is going to go out today because I know I have a timeline of when I should answer by, but I'm going to try to be ahead of it so that you have the feedback on hand as you're going through your presentation or going through your application process. And that brings us to a close with the slideshow. Okay, so Miss Jones here, so we can have her on the record. Miss Jones, could you help us out? We had a question about the challenge in the ESG grant, and that is the reimbursement schedule for the grant. Now, I normally don't get into that until I'm writing the application, well, writing the contracts. But could you tell us what the contract manager has said so far about what the schedule is going to be?
We can't hear Miss Joan. There you go, Tammy, go.
Could you tell us the reimbursement schedule for fiscal year 25-26?
All reports will be due to me on the 20th following the close of the month. I have to submit them, or excuse me, the 10th of the month. And then I have to submit them to the state by the 30th of the following month. It can take them 30 to 45 days to process that payment. So for like say a June payment, it could be August or even into September before we get payment. And that's what we're looking at right now for our June payment.
And
It'll be the same for the 25-26 year.
okay, are we fixed cost reimbursement or
We're going to be expense reimbursement this time.
so they're cost reimbursement this time? So we've moved from 112 to spend down. You're reimbursed as you spend down. I knew there was conversations about moving us away. So we're cost reimbursement for both grants this year.
So whatever you spend, that's the payment you'll receive. Yes, ma'am. You really need to have capital to carry you over for that time period. And two, it depends on what you spend. If you only spend $5,000 in a month, that's not so hard to recover as, say, a $50,000 payment. Just depending on what you've got and what you're spending in that particular month.
Mm. Thank you, Miss Joan. That was helpful.
Is that it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if you need me again, just call me.
Thank you. That was a big question because I was like, we used to be fixed costs and then this one was cost reimbursement. I wasn't 100% sure. Bringing the subject matter expert in, Money, Mr. J Money. Any other questions that we have? Yes. Yeah.
Financial oversight. What exactly is meant by financial oversight? Do I get it? Who do I have to get it with? Okay,
So would you like to answer, Paige?
Done much in that, but environment, is your finance person someone outside the organization?
That's watching at the side.
Okay.
As long as you have someone that you're reporting outside of the employee.
Have no pay. Negative. Fine with that, but I want to make sure we meet this requirement. I'm not going to fudge on any of the application. Look, I got about 27 days to figure it out. Do I need to contract with the CEO? But do I need to talk to my banker? Someone could serve as that.
Question for those online is he wanted to know about who is a financial oversight person or body to help them meet the requirements of the grant related to capacity or governance for financial oversight. The answer to that question is it's just a responsible party for the organization that's outside of your staff members. Like for our organization, we have a treasurer, we have a CPA that looks at our records, we have various entities that can look at our financial records. So it could be your treasurer on your board, it can be a CPA. However, this is not saying to go out and find someone that you're contracting with, pay money to do this work. So if you have someone on your board who's a treasurer, has accounting in their background, and they can read a profit and loss report. Um, Questions online? Okay, Brad Bishop has a question. Conflict of interest related to the Leadership Council. It is not a conflict of interest if your organization has someone on the leadership council to apply for this RFP. It's not a conflict of interest. That's something we checked with our TA. um, where there could be a conflict of interest or perception is if that person has if they're on the leadership council and they have weight within your organization, like as a board member or as a staff member. That is where an organizational conflict of interest could occur. So if they couldn't be on the project review and ranking committee because they would have a say so in saying like, well, this is my organization that I'm a board member of, and I'm selecting them. I'm ranking them on this application. I'm grading their application. I can grade them very high. And that's something that we want to avoid, especially with these types of dollars. We're having to be transparent. By the way, yes, I do liaise all of this, right? But we're not an applicant. And I don't get a vote at all. I've never gotten a vote in all of this. I literally just help coordinate documentation and scheduling meetings and things of that nature. That's all I do on behalf of the COC when it comes to this process. I don't have any say so on anything like this. She is the chair of the leadership council. Mm-hmm. She will recuse herself from reviewing your application. However, we have to ensure on the review and ranking committee that we have enough members to make sure that if your application is reviewed by 7 people, then and so was everyone else's, we need to have at least 8 to 9 committee members available to do the application. She will have to recuse herself as a reviewer of the 90 words application. Right. She would have to recuse herself from the, yeah, that's where it's going to matter. Because even if we recuse, even if, let's just say, I'm just going to put us, if opening doors has applied, and if Miss Serene or our board president, our current board president, if Miss Sidoti was on our committee, was on this committee, and we applied. Even her recusing herself from looking at our application, it still would become an issue. Okay, Miss Serene, you can't hear again. I'm sorry.
I can hear.
Oh, okay. I guess that was from old. All
Okay.
right.
No, that's
Okay.
old.
So, if we were a part of this process, which we're not, um, it would be, it would still probably be a conflict of interest for our president to participate in the vote of all of the applications. I think that is something that's going to have to be a discussion, because we're in discussion about that very thing right now. And so I could see it, especially from just the perception of the room, looking at everybody thinking about it. It's that's not good. Mhm. 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 All right. Same thing as like we have leadership council members on this call that are probably going to be applying. So they know, like, when we have the main vote, they will have to recuse themselves from the main vote. Is that clear? Is that correct, Miss Tracy? You're muted, Miss Tracy.
So I would say yes. So I sit on the leadership council and I do plan to apply. And I would recuse myself from that because my application is part of the bigger pot. So my understanding from the rest of the leadership council was that we would recuse ourselves if our application was part of what we were voting on at that time.
And just for clarification for the room, because a lot of what is being brought up is that if the leadership council member is also a board member, that it doesn't just stop with the applicant organization, but even members of their board. I could tell you with the federal requirements, it would be like perceived as a conflict of interest, especially with ESG. It would be. Can you confirm or deny if that's the understanding, Tracy?
I confirm that that's the understanding I have. Like, the understanding I have is that when that vote comes up, I need to leave the room because my application is part of that bigger pot, and that's not part of what I should be voting on, to be able to give everybody a fair opportunity. And if I had a board member that was sitting on the leadership council, I would expect them to do the same thing.
So usually whenever, can I give a bird's eye view about this, Miss Tracy?
Sure.
Okay. Um, so usually whenever the leadership council has their meeting, they present things on the agenda. And as they come up, there's a period of time, like if we ever have to do a vote and we look around the room and we're like, hey, there's an issue with this person being a part of this vote. They announce like what's coming up on the agenda and they know to come out and step out of the room as that discussion is happening. And then they finish that vote and then someone will go back out. Usually it's one of the staff members of opening doors will come out to get that board member that has left to come and bring them back in once everything has been finalized. That's usually what happens. Because we usually don't vote whether they have to vote either in the room or virtually in person, where they can be seen. It's usually when these types of things take place. Is that right, Ms. Tracy?
Yes, you are correct.
Mm-hmm. So, right. So that I will be very mindful of that as I'm going through the process. And I'm mindful of those types of things now because of
Can you
there's
repeat that,
so
Martika? What
many
you'll
of them.
be, what you will be
So
remindful
what
for
Tracy
us
is saying
online?
is that they don't have that to ensure that we not only just protect the whole sanctity of this entire process, is to ensure that we do not have COC Leadership Council members who are applicants and or have are board members of any of the applicants of the competition, that they do not have access to any materials as it relates to this competition that are submitted from the applicants to us. They're not on grants at opening doors. So no one as a part of the leadership council is a part of that process. Um, as we go through this process, when Vinny, Mr. Wibbs, and Ms. Hodson, and any applicant that's a part of the Leadership Council, they will only get materials and information as an applicant of this process. Um, now they are aware that they're not to talk about this that's outside of here, right? And so, and then whenever I'm giving materials out to get prepared for the vote, the ranking and review committee, it will only go to a review and ranking committee group that is just those group members. Those group members will have to sign a conflict of interest and code of conduct policy for this process. That is something I've talked with our TA about. They said, she said, yes, everyone has to sign that form that you've created. As I'm doing correspondence about, the vote and things of that nature, I will likely ask to lead as the liaison to protect the sanctity of this, since it's really my charge. Like if something goes wrong, it's on me, right? And so now I'm gonna say this: if you do something that breaks the sanctity of this process, because I have people looking at me. Now, if it did not come from me and I do everything by email most times, I usually don't like talking on the phone at all. Actually, I'm not answering my phone, so don't even call my phone number on there. I'm taking it off. I'm taking it off. Don't text me either. So only communicate with me by email because we just need. I do understand protecting this process and being good stewards of this process and the transparency of it. So let's correspond by email, and that way there's checks and balances. All right. You can't trust me if I'm not. You don't know like what the process is going to be. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I want if you are new and we need to check on the status or any change of your membership. If you can hang with me today. I saw on the call Letsy, and I know Letsy because she's with Waterfront. I don't know Ashley or Cherry. So if you can hang tight, and I think that's Miss Gladys Scott. If you, excuse me, if you can, I've got the hiccups. If you can hang out with us just to make sure that we got your membership. And then what
How
I'm
does
going to do,
Lexi spell her name?
ma'am,
How is Lexi spelling her name?
Lexi.
And what's the other one?
Um,
Cherry.
Cherry Marler. Everyone that attended online, you're part of the attendance list online, so you're fine. It's everybody that's in the room that I'm concerned about.
Okay.
Sure. Any other questions? Because what is about to start happening is I'm going to put you on an email thread that is BCC. So it's going to look like it's coming to and from me. As it's going to be coming from grants because that's what it's the correspondence because it just keeps everyone that's a part of our admin team in the know. You're going to be receiving a copy of this presentation and just a down and dirty of what's going on today. And then that will be how we communicate with each other. If I answered any questions as a part of here, I'm probably going to go ahead and convert those to a fact. It's going to take us a couple of hours because it takes time for this video and everything to convert over. So it might not even get done before 5 o'clock today. It might come out in the morning.
Martika, will that email include the PDF of the questions that are in the Google form? Because you can't, the gentleman that said earlier, you can't go past, like, there's required ones, so you can't go past that page until it's filled in.
Okay, that's fine, but we still need to notify them when it's ready. So what the question was from Miss Tracy was the PDF. Whenever the PDF is finished, could we please send that out and include it in the email that's going out about the notification of the website being updated with the PowerPoint presentation in the video? And I'm saying yes to that. We're going to make it so, Miss Tracy. You ask and you will receive.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for everyone that's been holding me honest with this because I'm just getting back from sick leave. So thank you very much for helping me keep me honest with all this process. All right. So I only know if you exist and want correspondence about all of this if either you're signed in as a attendee online today, or if you complete the sign-in sheet today, because I'm gonna go get the interest group ready. Um, you may not move from interest group to actual applicant group, which is just a contact list, unless you submit an application. If you submit an application, then you'll be put on a different email listserv so that you stay abreast about what's going on.
I'm not seeing either one as members, Lexi Osborne or Sherry Marler.
You don't see Letsy? I see Letsy.
Lexi?
Lexi Osborne.
Yeah,
Osburn.
Yeah, I downloaded the drive. under individual. Maybe they went in as organization members. Well, that was, hang on, wait a minute, I was doing wrong.
Yeah, I think we might be under as waterfront.
Okay, let's see.
Oh, they're under Jason Grizzard or Mr.
Clay
Clay
Romano.
Romano.
Now they can go on individual and get individual membership using their own email, but they just can't vote.
Oh no, this isn't about voting.
Huh.
I know Litzy is their grant writer. So I know if I saw Litzy's name, and I knew she was part of their grant writing team. So I
I'm
knew
sorry.
she was the one that was going to communicate related to the grant writing team at
Oh, I
Waterfront.
thought you were asking me if they were members. Okay.
Well, yes, their organization's yes, she is. Their organization is a member.
Okay, but she's not an individual member.
Mm-mm, no.
Okay. Okay. I'm just letting them know they can be individual members, but they can't have the vote.
Oh, okay.
See what I'm
Thank you.
saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I believe this brings our meeting to a close. If you want to check on your membership, just hang out in this room. Miss Reen, if you could come down, we got some guests that may need to check on their membership.
It's easier if I can do it here because I've got my
Oh,
drive
okay.
up.
Can we get your name? Chad Davis.
I do think I saw Chad.
And there with Dignity
Yeah.
Discipleship.
Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Let me see. That's the application's the wrong one. Okay.
Yeah, some new badges have been started to be made. They've not been placed yet, but we've been making the new badges for the new members. And then the next one was Tracy Hoodless or Paige Richards to see if there was a change for 90 Works. And did you want to change Paige to be your proxy?
Okay, I got Chad. Okay. He's in as an organization member, which means he holds the vote. Okay, who else was it? I'm sorry.
Mr. Chad, did you add a proxy? So a proxy is a person that will have your vote in your absence during a membership meeting. He asked, does he need to add his proxy online?
I don't think you can do it. I think I have to do it here.
She has to manually.
Or they
do
can
it.
email me.
Okay. The next agency that had a question was 90 Works. Tracy Hoodless believes she was the proxy for 90 Works.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It may still be under Rocky Harrison, so they wanted to know about the process of updating it to where Tracy becomes the voting member of 90 Works and Paige Richards becomes the proxy.
Okay. Can they email me those requests? Because I'm gonna have to go in and.
Yeah, they'll email you.
Okay.
There's actually a whole list of folks that I've been looking at their badges.
Great.
So I can help you because I've been looking at it.
Yeah, because I'm not seeing her in at all. So we probably do need that in writing that they want that. So I would suggest emailing, make it official. Them just not going in there and just making changes, you know.
All right, thank you. Lovely people who are online. We have you as part of the attendance list. And so you will be added to the group. And thank you, Sherry. I got your email address. It's going to save on our end for a couple of days. So I'll have a record to get you added.
May I make a request?
Yes.
So if any of you know somebody that's not affiliated with your organization, retired, has lots of time, loves numbers, we'd love to interview them to be on the grant selection committee. So you'd be helping us out a lot too, because then we can move along and start training. So if you have somebody, let Martika know. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
They have to be retired.
No, you said they have to be
I'm just
retired
saying.
so they can have a lot of time.
Let me tell you this. So this is a heavy burden. Okay. Thank you. This, being a part of this committee is a heavy burden. It's about 4 to 6 months of their life committed to this, because literally every time this competition happens, they're usually with me from, actually it's about 6 months. I don't know if I said that, but it's about 6 months of work that they're with me. It's about,
Not total, but you know,
not
spread.
total, but it's spread out, but it's
Yeah.
about 50, it's about 6 months of the year that they're dedicated to grants. So if you know of any parties that are interested in being a part of project review and ranking committee process and are wanting to be trained on it to understand this process, yeah. Thank you, Miss Serene. All right, meeting's adjourned if we have no more questions. All right. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.